I have to say Miami's defense, in particular their edge rushers, have been dominant in the first three rounds of these playoffs. The question is, can they do it again? Malachi Tony, who's just proving to be, he's a true freshman. He's a superstar in these playoffs. If Miami's offensive line can keep Indiana off of Carson Beck, and I think they will, they're going to score enough points. And here I go. I'm going to say I'm taking the Canes in this game. If Ruben Bain puts pressure on the quarterbacks like he has in the first three rounds, it's going to change the dynamic of the entire game.
Welcome to the show. We finally made it to the 2026 National Championship, who features two incredible teams that have gone for it all this year. Miami against Indiana. Indiana comes in as an 8.5-point favorite into the National Championship game with a total points of 47.5. This game is all about the matchups here. Two great teams. It comes down to the individual matchups between Indiana's offense and Indiana's defense, and so on and so forth. But so first to start, let's talk about the Miami defense going up against the Indiana offense. Indiana has a really good offensive line. Center Pat Coogan won the MVP trophy for the Rose Bowl. So talk about the Miami defensive front.
Well, Nick, I'm excited for this game. What a matchup we have. And unsurprisingly, this is going to come down to who dominates the line of scrimmage. And I have to say, Miami's defense, in particular their edge rushers, have been dominant in the first three rounds of these playoffs. The question is, can they do it again against an offensive line who is playing as good as any unit we've seen in college football in a long time? So let's go through the key matchups as I see them. I mean, number one, you can't go far without talking about Ruben Bain and how he's going to match up on the left side against Carter Smith. Ruben Bain is a beast. The man is 6'3", 275 pounds. He's got 8.5 sacks. He's got nearly 50 tackles and 5.5 tackles for losses this year against Carter Smith, who is anchoring the best offensive line in college football. Indiana offensive line was a finalist for the Joe Moore Award. Carter Smith himself is a finalist for the Outland Trophy Award given to the best offensive lineman in the country. And so here we are right away with the matchup that determines how clean the pocket is going to be for Fernando Mendoza. I expect Ruben Bain to win this matchup. He is the type of edge rusher that we see come along not very often. He's very big, much bigger than a normal edge rusher in the NFL. In fact, he's about as big as a Myles Garrett. So think of him in that type of edge rusher. That left side is going to be critical because that's obviously Mendoza's blind side. If Ruben Bain puts pressure on the quarterbacks like he has in the first three rounds, it's going to change the dynamic of the entire game. But as soon as you move away from Ruben Bain and you move to the other side, you talk about an equally effective defensive end in Akeem Mesidor. Mesidor has 60 tackles this year. He's got 10.5 sacks. He's got 4 forced fumbles. This man is playing at the top of his game. Now, he got hurt a little bit in the second half last week. We're told by Mario Cristobal that he is running full blast right now, and so we're expecting him to come into the game healthy. He hurt his left arm on a play that was kind of a fluke. Offensive lineman fell on top of him near the goal line. So that matchup on Mendoza's right side is Mesidor against Khalil Benson, the transfer from Colorado, who's playing really well, not quite as athletic as Mesidor. So again, I think that matchup is going to be skewed toward Miami and Akeem Mesidor. Now, if these two edge rushers are in the backfield constantly, that's going to change the entire dynamic of how Indiana operates on offense. If those two edge rushers for Miami are putting pressure on Mendoza, it's going to change the entire dynamic for Indiana's offense, who has been running the ball extremely well in the first couple of games, and it would have to do it again. But if Indiana has to keep a back in the backfield in order to help out their tackles, the entire passing game changes and their ability to run changes.
Yeah, and even to talk about their run game, it kind of looks like this Indiana run game is on full blast right now, at the peak of they've been all season. Led by Roman Hemby, running back who had an incredible game against Oregon, and then Kalen Black, who also is a part of that run game and plays a large role. Then you look to the passing game for Indiana, and obviously they're led by Heisman Trophy winner Fernando Mendoza. But on the outside, he's got wide receivers Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper Jr. Charlie Becker has become a go-to for Fernando Mendoza, and he actually plays a big role on this Indiana offense. The run game for Indiana will help a lot with their pass game. If they're able to get a run game going that is consistent, it'll take a lot of pressure off of Fernando Mendoza and specifically the Indiana offensive line. The biggest matchup for me with this Indiana offense is going to be the offensive line, like you mentioned, against that front seven for Miami. The Indiana pass offense will be going up against this Miami secondary. How do you see the Miami secondary faring in this matchup?
Well, the Miami secondary is playing really well, Nick, led by Jacoby Thomas and Keontae Scott, who had that huge interception against Ohio State that really turned that game around. And almost put it out of reach for Ohio State, given how dominant the rest of the defense was for the Canes. I think that this is going to be a very good matchup for the Canes. The wild card in all of this is what are they going to do with Charlie Becker, who you said has emerged on this in the second half of the season and really late in the season as the deep threat for Indiana. So pay attention to how they defend him because Keontae Scott can only be one place at one time. He's their best cover corner. And so I still think that between the pressure up front for Miami and their ability to cover, that Miami's defense is going to be fine. But with Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper Jr., and now you throw in Charlie Becker into the mix, it poses a big threat. I am so high right now on the Canes defense that I'm just going to overlook all of it and say this game's going to be low scoring. The Canes defense is going to show up as they have all season and in particular in these playoffs. And I think that they're going to have enough to hold this game close. And then at that point, I guess we'll get to who we're going to pick at the end, but you can kind of see where I'm leaning at this point.
Yeah, and this Miami defense has kind of become a unit that's inevitable. We expect Miami's defense to play well and at an elite rate. But for Indiana, the matchup for me that's most important for them is how their defense matches up against the Miami offense. Just some of the guys to note on this Indiana defense are Elijah Hardy, Isaiah Jones, and Aiden Fisher. Those are three linebackers that play a large role on their defense. And then in the secondary, you have Lewis Moore, who led the team in interceptions, and cornerback D'Angelo Pons, who's really been playing at an elite level right now. Then you look at the offense for the Miami Hurricanes, largely led by the run game of Mark Fletcher Jr. and that beefy offensive line. How do you see this matchup between the Miami offense and the Indiana defense?
Well, again, on the line of scrimmage, Miami's got a very good offensive line. Indiana's defensive line has lived in the other team's backfield all season. They really kicked Ohio State's butts when they played them in the Big Ten championship, and they don't really have to bring a lot of backers in order to put pressure on the quarterback. So, all right, here's the question. You look at the tackles for Miami. You've got Markel Bell on one side. He's 6'9", 340. He is just a massive man, and he's going to be charged with protecting Carson Beck's backside. On the other side of the line, you've got the even higher rated Francis Mauigoa, who is 315 and 6'6", and he's going to go really high in the NFL draft in April. So I think again, Miami's got the advantage here. Now, Carson Beck is a mobile enough quarterback, and yeah, he might not rip off the 30-yard runs like Fernando Mendoza does, but he's going to buy time in the pocket. He's going to run when he has to. He's picked up key third downs in the last two games to keep drives going for the Canes. I expect a lot more of that. Indiana's linebackers are better than Mississippi's linebacker. So he's going to have to watch that out. They'll probably keep a backer back there to spy on him so that he doesn't get too far out of the pocket. But I think this matchup also favors the Canes. And then when you look at their skills, and you mentioned the run game, but the pass game here, I mean, you can't go too far without talking about Malachi Tony, who's just proving to be he's a true freshman. He's a superstar in these playoffs. He made big plays last week. He had a play on a third down where it looked like he was stopped well short of the line to gain and was able to juke and jive and get a huge first down deep into the Ole Miss territory that led to a score. This kid has all the makings of a superstar, and he's only 18 years old. So, he's going to put a lot of pressure on that defensive backfield for Indiana, who has really not been challenged that much because there's been so much pressure from their line. And when they do bring backers, I mean, it's like Katie bar the door. I mean, they are in the backfield a lot. If Miami's offensive line can keep Indiana off of Carson Beck, and I think they will, they're going to score enough points. And here I go. I'm going to say right now, I'm saying I'm taking the Canes in this game. I'm taking the money line. They are plus 260. I'm taking that money line. I don't need the points. The Canes are going to win this game. And if you do that, you're going to clean up.
Yeah, and just to note on this Miami offense, a couple guys that get overlooked due to Mark Fletcher and Malachi Tony being heavily involved in that offense. Two guys are Keelan Marion and CJ Daniels, both wide receivers that play a large role in this Miami offense, along with the run game and Malachi Tony. The matchup for me with this Indiana defense is going to be in the secondary. It's going to be Jamari Sharp and D'Angelo Pons against Malachi Tony and CJ Daniels and Keelan Marion. How are they going to fare in the secondary? But where it all starts is going to be the defensive line and the pass rush for Indiana. I think that they're going to have to attempt to make Carson Beck uncomfortable and force him into mistakes. This defense that Indiana runs is a linebacker-heavy defense. Even though that they can go into a 4-2-5 and go with two of those linebackers, they play a large role on this defense, led by Elijah Hardy, Isaiah Jones, and Aiden Fisher, most importantly, their leader on defense. I see Indiana coming out of this game and maybe even squeaking it through. This game might be under due to the two great defenses that we have playing against each other. But I think Indiana is a team like no other right now. They look incredible. Their offense has performed very well so far in the playoffs, and I believe that Indiana is going to take this. I don't think it's going to be a blowout like the first couple games Indiana's played in this playoff, but I do see them getting the job done.
Well, when I summarize what we're looking at here, it comes down to this. We've got two very mature quarterbacks playing at the top of their games. Yeah, Mendoza probably has a little bit more arm talent than Beck, but Beck is proven to be a leader. Beck is in his seventh year in college right now, and that maturity shows on the field. So he has led this Miami team well. Maybe a little bit of advantage to Indiana on the quarterback side, but not a lot. Then you look at the offensive lines or the matchups of the lines against the defenses. I'm giving Miami the benefit of the offensive line matchups on both sides of the ball. I think that their edge rushers are beyond great, in particular for this level of football. Both of those guys look like they're going to have solid NFL careers. And so when I mix it all together, I see this coming out with the Canes with a victory. Let's not discount the idea that this game is in Miami and it is kind of a home game for the Canes. They certainly play in this stadium during the regular season, although they will be in the visitor locker room. So it's a little bit unfamiliar, but that's the only little tweak. The Canes are going to win this game, Nick.
Yeah, one matchup just to circle for me. What I'll be watching in this game, like we mentioned earlier, is that Indiana offensive line against this defensive line from Miami that is one of the best, if not all of the best in the country, led by Ruben Bain Jr. and Akeem Mesidor. One thing to note is an interesting matchup for me specifically is Pat Coogan, the center, against the Miami defensive tackle, Ahmad Moten. I know that you had said something about that. What do you see there?
Well, yeah. So we know that that's a key matchup. So, we're focusing so much on the edges that we really neglect the internal part of the line. And you're right. That matchup between Coogan and Moten, or when Moten's not in the game, Blount is doing a great job spelling him. If they neutralize what's going on in the middle, it's going to make it very difficult for Indiana to run. I mean, Indiana's got really two really good running backs, and they've run the ball uh, at will the last two games for sure. Coogan got a lot of notoriety for winning that MVP award at the Rose Bowl. Coogan anchors a spectacular offensive line. I think that it's going to be a stalemate inside. And when you look at that, then what happens on the edge is going to become more important, and Miami's going to win those matchups.
Yeah, so one thing just before we close this show on my end, this Indiana team has come such a long way from 2 years ago, just before Kirk Cignetti took the team over. It's an incredible story that Indiana has here, that they're coming all the way to the national championship after just 2 years ago being one of those bottom tier Big Ten teams. But then you look at Miami, a team that hasn't been in a long time. They're hungry, powered by an elite defense. This game is everything we've asked for in a national championship. So watch the game. We'll be back to break it down just a couple days after it ends. We'll see you guys soon.